Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Women in Manufacturing Association's podcast, Hear Her Story. My name is Allison Graylis, and I'm the president and founder of the Women in Manufacturing Association and Education Foundation. As your host, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our guest for this week's episode, Leslie Morales. Leslie is Vice President of Operations for U.S. Rubber in Fulton, California. Leslie joins us today to talk about her journey in manufacturing, a little bit about her company's current initiatives as they work to recruit talent, and as well to talk about her passion for the industry and the importance of women in this industry. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So as we like to do on Hear Her Story, obviously the aim of our podcast and using this communication tool is to illuminate and share the stories of women in industry. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about your background. You know, what inspires you? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What was your early life like before working?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am a Southern California native, which there aren't too many of us left in California. I was born and raised in the Los Angeles area, actually in Inglewood, California. I lived there for the first 12 years of my life. And then we transferred down to Orange County, California, so closer to the beach and to the Disneyland area. That helps you with Orange County, Huntington Beach, California specifically. As a child, I was raised by my parents, and I was an only child. I don't have any siblings. My parents are actually from Rhode Island, and they came across country with some other family members, and they settled into Southern California. So I didn't really have a lot of family out here. We would travel every so often across country to Rhode Island to visit all of our family that was still there. And my mother would never fly, so we had to take the train. And to be honest, that was a fantastic experience. I have wonderful memories of being on the train, wandering through the cars, experiencing all the different things that the country had to offer, the different stops, the different cultures. It was actually a great education. I had a lot of fun doing that. But my upbringing was just pretty quiet for the most part. I loved school. I was a wonderful student, I'd like to say. School was one of the places where I just felt like it was fun and where I needed to be. But then when we came down to Orange County, that's when I went to high school and really kind of grew up. And I went to college at Cal State Fullerton, which is one of the state universities here in California. And I thought that I was going to be a television producer director, preferably in the news. That's what I loved. I loved the action, the fast pace of the news. I was very lucky at my high school, at Huntington Beach High School. We had the only television studio in Orange County. And so I got to learn everything. I mean, we did everything. We had cameras, we did broadcasts, we did all kinds of fun stuff. So Cal State Fullerton was a local college that I could go to and pursue that dream. And my parents could not afford to send me, so I had to work full time. I went to school full time. So I did all that on my own, graduated in 4 years, got my degree, and then found quickly how difficult it was going to be to find a job. So unfortunately, I did not get to pursue that. And I did work in retail, which a lot of college students did. And I was moving up the ladder in my retail profession. I worked for Montgomery Ward's, which again, very old, established company. Great opportunities there. I started in the restaurant. I worked part-time. I actually got the job because I had made a bet with my father and my uncle that I would get straight A's my senior year. And if I did, they would pay for a trip to Hawaii for me for my senior present. What they didn't know was that I had orchestrated my classes so that it was going to be really difficult for me not to get straight A's. I mean, I kind of saved all the easy classes till the end, but they didn't know that, and that's fine. And so I said, well, I'll get a job and I'll pay for my spending money. And that's how I started working at Montgomery Ward's. And I did earn that trip, by the way. So I started there, and I just started moving up the ladder there as I was going to school. And I was able to graduate in 4 years and get out. But unfortunately, like I said, I didn't pursue that opportunity in the media and TV industry. So I was looking in the newspaper for a different job, which is, again, what you did back then. And I found this ad in the paper that said, we have this management training program, and, we just, looking for people that are wanting to grow with a company. And it was a transportation company, and didn't answer to me who that person or that company was. I had no idea what company that was. Just at a transportation company. So I called and I did the phone interview, passed the phone screen, and got the face-to-face interview. So as I was driving to the interview, realized that I was going to interview with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And I had never heard of them. I'd never rented a car. So I was like, well, okay, I guess I can try this, but I didn't go to college to rent cars. But as I interviewed and as I met people, I realized that's not what it was. It wasn't just renting cars. And I had no idea what type of trajectory I was about to embark upon, but I ended up with a 33-year career there. And I have some wonderful stories. I have some fantastic mentors. I was blessed to actually start my very first day with Enterprise with someone who would eventually be probably one of my best friends and was the CEO of the company. Because everybody starts at the same place. You start renting cars and then you go from there. And so I have a mentor and a friend in someone who was one of the most, I think, successful females in business. And she was the first female CEO of Enterprise. She was in the Fortune top 50 women. I mean, her name is Pam Nicholson. And she was my mentor, and she is my friend. And I was very lucky. And so a lot of things that I learned from her, and especially strength of women in business. I mean, she was a fantastic role model. She was just a great teacher and a wonderful friend. So I spent my adult life at Enterprise, and then as things started to change and there was some leadership changes and some restructuring, I ended up just taking a package and leaving at that point. And I thought maybe that it's time for me to just hang it up. I mean, 33 years, that's a pretty good career. Yeah. So I thought that might be the end. And in about 6 months, I realized that I was not at the end of my career. And so I started networking and realizing that I had no presence outside of Enterprise. I was globally known within that company and had, thousands of connections, but what was that going to do for me in the real world, And so I quickly had to come to the realization that I had to develop myself pretty much all over again. So I did, and I did have some help with some placement, agency. Actually, Enterprise gave us one of those, and I spent some time there. But it was quite a shock for me. I didn't have a resume. I didn't have, like I said, a LinkedIn presence. I think I had 120 connections on LinkedIn, and I figured out that was not going to get me my next position, and that networking and building relationships was. And so that's what I did. And I learned that in probably about a 6-month period of time that I could do whatever I set myself out to do. And I did get over 1,500 LinkedIn connections and put myself in some uncomfortable positions so that I could expand my presence and learn and grow into the businesswoman that I knew I could be. And I worked for another company before I joined this one, but the reason why I'm here today is because of that networking relationship Our CEO, Jeff Baldessari, is someone who I met early on in my networking venture. And we established a great relationship and connection. And he believed in me then. He wasn't in this position at the time, but I was somebody that resonated with him, and he remembered throughout his journey. And when he landed here and an opportunity came up, he thought of me, and that's how I got here.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a story. Gosh, there's so many things to unpack there, Leslie.
exactly.
I
There's a
mean,
lot.
but a lot of great stuff. I mean, I think first, having been in such a different educational pursuit, and then to kind of find this application in a very long and successful career in a totally different space at enterprise. Having this amazing sounding female mentor and senior leader who sounds like she really inspired you, helped provide great guidance and expertise. And then to have to really reinvent yourself after 33 years, that's a scary place to be. So why don't we first hop into a little bit about that mentorship and that 33-year career at enterprise. So this very successful woman who was not only friend but mentor, what would you say are maybe one of the top one or two things that really struck you, and that she educated or kind of taught you as it related to your expansion and growth as a leading female executive and leader?
I think one of the things that she always told me was that even though we were in pretty much a male-dominated industry, at Enterprise, they're not your typical rental car company. They established themselves early on as what we call a replacement company. And what that means is if your car was in an accident or it broke down, you needed a rental car to replace that, especially in California. And I was in California when I started with Enterprise, and everybody needs a car. If your car breaks down, oh my God, you got to get another one. So the niche here in California was, oh my gosh, so successful because nobody else was in it. And so that's why it was explosive growth when I first started. I mean, just the growth was probably 15 to 20% annually for my first 10 years. I mean, it was crazy. And so you had to learn a lot very quickly. And but one of those things that she did help me with was how to navigate a male-dominated industry. How to be confident in who you are, how to be heard, really, because that's difficult in the industry. And you have to have very thick skin, because there are some situations that you get into that you really have to be able to either talk your way out of or just work your way out of, because sometimes it's not viewed that a female would be able to have the right answer or maybe the right perception on certain things. And so to be able to be very confident in your knowledge, and it took a lot to learn. I didn't know anything about cars, but I had to learn very quickly so that I could have conversations with people and have them believe that not only did I know, but that we as a company knew what we were doing. And so, slowly but surely, I was able to establish that. And then on the, maybe on the employee development side, she treated me the way she wanted to be treated. We were always communicating. It was always collaborative. It wasn't any type of a dictatorship or anything. It was like, let's talk, let's all sit around, let's come up with something. She was always, men and women made sure we were all heard. And that's a big deal when you're coming up, especially as a young person, and we were all pretty much the same age. Enterprise is always known for hiring, everybody hires in at the same. You're always hired in at college or after college. So you're all pretty much the same age when you start, and then you kind of move up, you matriculate together. And, so as a young person, nobody ever listened to me, who's listening to me? And so, that was super important. And then we had fun. As hard as it was, and we worked some very long hours. I mean, our day was a 10-hour day, just a regular day. But that could extend into, were we going on a marketing function? Were we playing volleyball with the farmers insurance people. What were we, it was a commitment. You were committed when you worked for enterprise, and not everybody wanted to do that. And so the turnover, happened quite a bit, but the successful people who were committed wanted to keep moving forward. But she was a big reason why I did, because I felt like she heard me. She had my best interest in mind. She made it fun. She made me want to keep going, and that was important.
What is she doing today?
She's retired.
Okay.
She retired a couple of years ago, but she's partners in a winery up in Napa.
Oh, okay.
And her husband actually is the one who started it. And then now she's helping with that occasionally. I mean, and she's a person, I'll tell you the other thing that she really taught me, and I do to this day. You're never too big to do whatever the task is. At Enterprise, every store had to wash their own cars and do their own things. I mean, we were washing cars in high heels. I mean, it was that kind of thing. When you roll up your sleeves, you roll up your sleeves, and it doesn't matter who you are, everybody does it. And that was another thing that I always admired about her. And recently I saw her at a function, and she was telling me at the winery that during the harvest, she goes, all I was doing is making lunches and washing dishes, and I was, whatever I had to do to keep everybody moving, and it's like, oh my God, this woman who, ran a multi-billion-dollar company is washing dishes and making sandwiches, but
Wow.
that's who she is, and doesn't think twice about it. And it makes you just respect her and love her even more.
You make it, let EMC protect it. From tailored protection to essential coverages, EMC insurance companies can provide your manufacturing business with the right insurance to keep your operation running smoothly. Plus, with nearly a century of safety experience, we know how to help manufacturers prevent accidents and costly losses. We go beyond the basic loss control survey, working with you to create custom workplace safety plans. And to help keep safety top of mind and at your fingertips, we provide a variety of online tools and on-demand trainings, available whenever you need them. If an accident does occur, we're always ready to respond with local, personalized service to help you recover quickly. From prompt, fair claim settlements to effective return to work strategies, you can count on EMC to help you maximize your uptime. Contact your local independent insurance agent today or visit emcins.com to find out how EMC insurance companies can help you protect your manufacturing business.
So, I mean, to reset and to have to, after such a long career with a single company, to have to reinvent yourself, as you said, to really put yourself out there, to develop and expand your network. You mentioned that you had to do even some uncomfortable things. What were some of the things that you had to do in this process of reinventing yourself and making new connections to help find that next position or opportunity?
So one of the things that I did was after I was involved in the placement company that we were involved in with Enterprise, and kind of learning how to build my story and reinvent myself. There were a lot of networking groups here in Orange County that I became involved in, and one of those is called McDermott and Bull. And what they used to do is they would do these after hours events and different types of things. We actually called it speed dating for networking. And what you would do is you would have kind of like a 2-minute opportunity to give your pitch to someone. And you would travel from table to table and kind of do that to help you hone your skill. And that was really daunting to me. I mean, I don't know why, because I have no problem talking. I have no problem, with people. But I think when it came to really tooting my own horn and trying to discover who I really was in a 2-minute time frame, that was going to be hard. So some of those networking events were difficult for me. This was all happening right around the holiday time, and first of the year, it's like everybody's making these New Year's resolutions. I am just not good at that at all. And so instead of making a New Year's resolution, what I told myself was I was going to start putting myself into situations that made me feel uncomfortable when it came to having to expose myself to different groups or opportunities, or maybe even changing direction in industry or whatever that may be. And so one of those things I did was I joined something called Executive Boot Camp. And again, it was another networking group that they had in Orange County. And all of these things are free, which is awesome. That was the one thing that was mind-boggling to me, that I didn't have to pay for these things. But this was a recruiting company that basically put this on. And it was a 4-week class, once a week for about 4 hours a day, or on Tuesdays. And every Tuesday, we kind of had to really peel our layers back and really dig deep into who we were, think about the times when we were at our best, think about the times when we were not at our best, and really expose all of that to each other. It was a group of about 10 of us, and from all different walks in different places. I mean, senior leadership to, I think the lowest was level was like in the director position or sales manager position, but so mostly executives. But I was intimidated again, because I felt like, oh my gosh, these people are all so much better than me. They're so much, more advanced than I am in their careers. It was so humbling. But then at the end of the day, we were all the same, and we were all feeling inadequate. We just weren't sure about our next step because we just didn't know what it was going to be. And so it was very eye-opening for all of us. And we developed some fabulous relationships throughout that as well. People to this day who I'm still, very honored to call friends, that we really got down to our, kind of lowest point and built ourselves back up. And it was awesome. I learned so much through that. It was a great experience.
Sounds phenomenal. And I think, you spoke of a few different things. I think that confidence piece that, it's really tough, especially when you've been in the same position or with same company for so long and you know that really well. And then to be thrown for a loop and to realize, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone. I've got to figure out what's next. And then as well to have, some fragility around confidence and skills and, trying out new positions or going for a new position is really tough. But how great to have a cohort in this community of others that were at a similar place as you, that you could be each other's supporters, you could be each other's champions, but also probably be a real honest community to talk about those gaps and things that you might need to work on or strengthen as you go in and look for new positions.
Yeah, it was a very safe space. I mean, I will say that. And the people that led us throughout those discussions were just amazing, because they were so encouraging and just really made you feel comfortable and built you up. And that's what we needed at that point.
Yeah.
Most of us were at a point where we had been in our positions for years and years, and we were defined by that. And we had to create a new definition of who we were. And we were all kind of in the same age group, and so there's something to be said for that as well. And, trying to lift each other up, it was wonderful. It really was.
Wow. And you talked a little bit earlier about networking and the importance of networking and how it's impacted, your career and as well your most recent role. We often talk as a membership-based organization that obviously one of the key things we try to do is facilitate networking opportunities. We try to talk about that power of networking and why it's important to put time and energy and effort into expanding and developing and strengthening your relationships and network. So you mentioned, this connection you made who, thought of you as perhaps they were in this new role, responsibility, and position. How do you continue to strengthen your network, and what are the kinds of things that you're doing to kind of stay focused, or at least have some focus still on that importance of networking?
So I still do have my toe dipped in some of those organizations that I was involved in. The one I just spoke of, COVID has kind of changed that a little bit, but we do a quarterly it's a family reunion, so to speak. And it's really wonderful because, unfortunately, some folks are still not working. And so that turns into a networking with those of us who are, to see if we've got opportunities. And the one thing I will tell you that I have learned is that these relationships are so important. I mean, they are vitally important, so much so that, if I ever have an opportunity that I can help someone else out, I do, because I know what I felt like. And I know how wonderful this feeling was when I was tapped on the shoulder for this opportunity. So I want others to feel that because it's important to me. I believe in karma. I believe in putting things into the universe because it will happen. And I absolutely still continue those types of relationships when I can, when I have time. But that's really the way that I try to stay involved in that. And LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn every day. I'm looking at all my connections. I'm looking to see what's going on. I'll reach out to some here or there, especially the ones that I know that may be looking, just to see if there's anybody that I know that I can help them with. That to me is like, I feel like I have to pay that back. I feel a debt that will probably never be paid back. But that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind doing that. That's been the one thing that's been constant in my life, really since I started with Enterprise, is the mentorship. It's the employee development. It's the passion I have for that part. Sometimes it's probably too much. I mean, my heart leads too much. Sometimes I have to kind of reel it back in. But I believe that that's important as we continue to move through.
Wow. That's so great that drives you and so authentically drives you to want to pay it forward and to help others. And, I think I see that so often in our member community. Again, the vast majority of our members happen to be female, as we are the Women in Manufacturing Association. But of course, we're very inclusive of male allies.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find is that I think we women in particular, I think we don't forget those that helped us along the way. And I think I see such willingness within our member community of women wanting to help future generations of women in industry, current generations wanting to help other women be successful. And it sounds like you're very much living that mission as you're trying to help those in your network find opportunities or get connected to individuals and opportunities. And LinkedIn is such a great resource. I think back to, the times like when you were talking about your journey of looking for work, mine was very similar, looking through the physical paper and circling positions and underlining and highlighting words that I thought maybe were applicable to what I had gotten a degree in. And it's crazy how different our world is and how we can so quickly connect to people that at one point in time would have been so out of reach. And as well to be able to find, expansive opportunities all over the place that, again, we would have probably not looked beyond our own local market or resources. So LinkedIn is a great tool. And I think, I as well try to spend time on there weekly, responding to connection requests, seeing what others are doing, celebrating what others are doing, because I think it's great to see other people rising to celebrate their accomplishments. So it is a great tool.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think we sell ourselves short too, because I know I did in the beginning. I mean, but that's kind of my MO. Like I try to almost scare myself into something. So it almost forces me to respond in a different way, probably more of a sense of urgency. I've always operated on a sense of urgency, I feel like, in my personal life and my professional life. But, when I had to reinvent myself, I looked around, I asked people, I didn't just try to do it by myself. It was a collaborative effort. And when I redid my my LinkedIn profile, it was so great that I actually was like the case study for one of the large churches down in South Orange County. It's called Saddleback Church, and it's one of those mega churches. And they also have a ministry, an employment ministry. One of the other free things I took advantage of, where they walk you through different things. They do mock interviews, they help you with resumes, they help you with LinkedIn. So one of those was a LinkedIn profile class, and there were two classes, a beginning and advanced. And so I took both those classes, and then I made my LinkedIn profile. And then the guy who runs the class, he said, "Oh my God, this was so great." He goes, "Can I use it in my class?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, sure." I mean, I was flattered. But the best part about that was I got so many connections because my profile kept going up. And so I think these random people would be coming, they'd say, oh, I saw your profile at the LinkedIn class, and I'd love to connect with you. Sure. So I really expanded my connections because of that. And I wasn't expecting it, but it was pretty awesome, I have to say. It was a lot of fun too.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So now obviously you're in a new opportunity and a new role and responsibility. So tell me a little bit about, and tell our listeners a little bit about your current role and company. And then as well, I want to dive into a little bit of the work that your folks are doing on second chance hiring. So tell us a little bit about role, company, what you're doing now, and then we can talk a little bit about your second chance hiring program.
Okay. So as I said, I was looking. It was still in COVID times, and the CEO had reached. I had actually reached out to him. It was he had just gotten promoted. He started here as a general manager and then had gotten promoted to president and CEO. And so I, again, on LinkedIn, I saw the announcement. So I, responded, and I sent him a little note and I congratulated him. And I said, hey, remember me if there's ever anything that you're, needing on the operations side, I'm your person. And he said to me at that time, and it was in the fall, he said, stay tuned. I've got some things that I'm looking at, and maybe after the first of the year, there might be something. And I was like, great. Well, I forgot. And I'm moving through and interviewing with other companies. And then I got this random LinkedIn note from him. And he said, hey, I've got an opportunity for a vice president of operations at my company. I'd like for you to entertain it. I'm only offering it to you.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. It's manufacturing. I've never done manufacturing. He said, I'm not hiring you for your manufacturing knowledge. I can teach you that. He said, what I'm hiring you for is your process efficiencies, your ability to mentor and manage people, and your ability to scale a business. And I know you've got all those things. And I said, all right. So I came down and interviewed, and I said, why me? Why did you think of me? And he said, remember when we met a couple of years ago and we first were starting to network? He said, I asked you to mentor a friend of mine's daughter at Enterprise. She had just started Enterprise, and you said that you would offer to mentor her, and you did. And she didn't end up working there, but you took time out of your day to do that. And you were trying to find your own job at that time, but that resonated with me. That meant a lot to me. That was a test of your character, and you're somebody that I want on my executive team. And I said, okay, then I'm in. Teach me manufacturing. And so that's how I landed this position. And I didn't know a thing about it. I didn't know a thing about manufacturing, but I did know processes. I did know efficiencies. I did know people, and I did know about scaling a business and recruiting talent. And so all of those things I learned at Enterprise, and I was able to put those skills to use here. And the only thing I didn't know was how to work with the second chance population. That was not something that I had ever been involved in before. So that was something I did have to learn along the way.
And so US Rubber is how big of a company? And as well, I would assume the company is, I'm sure, challenged with finding talent, as is the general industry. I think the most recent statistic is around 860,000 estimated open manufacturing positions as we sit present day. And there continues to, unfortunately, be a bit of a churn rate, additions and exits and quits from the industry. So was that perhaps the impetus, or was that one of the impetuses for looking at second chance hiring as an opportunity to find talent?
Well, I would say yes, but actually US Rubber Recycling is ahead of its time. They've been doing this almost since their inception. The company was established in 1996. They've been a very small family-owned business for a while. It wasn't until about 2 years ago, actually right before the pandemic. They were about a $5 million company. They had about 30 employees maybe. And then in the last 2 to 3 years, they've tripled in size from revenue standpoint. And we have about 70 employees today. And 2/3 of our workforce are from the second chance population. Most of those folks are in the factory. We have only a couple that are in the office, but we do give opportunities, all the way. I mean, it doesn't matter which position it is. We do look to the second chance population for any opening that we have currently. But they've been doing it since then, and actually it started very organically. They were just looking for a person. One of the current employees wanted to refer a friend of theirs that had just recently gotten out of prison, had been in prison in solitary. I mean, you know, and let me kind of back up a little bit here. At US Rubber, we do not hire violent criminals. Okay, so no sexual offenses, no murderers, nothing violent. So not that you know, those people don't deserve an opportunity too, but it's just typically that's not those people who are not the ones who are looking for employment, I guess, as a second chance population. And most of those people, unfortunately, are probably incarcerated for life. So, but this particular gentleman started at the bottom, and he was a 20-year employee until he recently retired. But he had been in prison for almost half his life and needed an opportunity, and US Rubber gave it to him. And then that kind of started the ball rolling. From a referral standpoint, when I came on board, we were in this huge growth spurt, and we did not have enough people, and we were trying to add shifts and do all these different things. And so my CEO was basically telling me, you got to go find it, you know, figure it out. So what we did was through some of our current employees who had come through different places, different resources, whether it be halfway houses, transitional facilities. We have several of those in the area. Our company is located in the city of Colton, California. Colton is in the Inland Empire, which is east of Los Angeles, more towards like the desert type of community. But we have a couple of prisons in the local area. And so many of those prisons do big releases. And when they do these releases, they release to the community. Now, some people go back to wherever they came from, but a lot of them don't have places to go. And so there are several different transitional housing facilities in the area. And so what will happen is these folks go to those facilities, they get enrolled in different programs, and then through those programs, they're found different types of jobs. And so what we've done is that's one of our resources. We partner with those agencies, and we've been very successful with that because they're a captive audience. They have to go back to the halfway house. Some of them are even so wonderful that they provide the transportation for those people too. And then if you really get involved with them, you find like who funds them. And once you get involved with who funds them, because not all of them are state funded, they get private donations or they partner with other organizations. And it's just kind of like this, almost like a bush. I mean, it starts at one place and it just, you know, there's so many different branches and you just keep branching off and finding different ways to get those referrals. And it's been really successful for us to be able to partner with some of these organizations to find our talent.
Great. So what have been some of the business benefits that you've seen aside from filling positions? What are some other benefits of having this type of program in place?
Well, there's some financial incentives to a business. There are tax credits that you can apply for when you have a certain number of the justice involved or veteran population. There are tax advantages with those. We partner with the County of San Bernardino and the County of Riverside, and through those organizations, they have something called a prison to employment on the job training program. So once a person will qualify for that program, the county then gets involved. They help them with different resources, whether it be clothing, whether it be housing, transportation. They will help with that. And then the best part is the first 90 days of this partnership, the county will reimburse us 50% of the employee's wages.
Wow.
So it's almost like a training program that we can work through and not be exposed for 100% of the financial part of it. And then we can see if it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, then we part ways. Um, we also recently partnered with one of the transitional facilities here and one of our other community partners, and we partnered in something called the Working Interview Program. It's a 30-day program that is funded by one of our community partners and the state of California. And for 30 days, we were able to try people out with no cost to us.
Wow.
The cost that the employees were paid through this program, the community partner assumed the liability, and we were able to try these folks out for 30 days. And it was awesome. Again, this group of people, for the most part, are just thankful for an opportunity. They're thankful to be able to go somewhere where they're not judged, where they don't have to worry about a background check, they don't have to worry about anything. And they just want to get their lives back. They want to get back on track. And we hired these two gentlemen through this program, and they've been probably two of the best workers we've ever had.
Right. Think about how you're not only filling a business need, but you're changing these people's lives and you're helping them become independent and support themselves and potentially their families.
Yeah, and I guess I don't want people to worry about, like, are the challenges worse, better, different, whatever. Honestly, the challenges of second chance hiring are as similar as they are different from challenges that you're just employing a traditional workforce. Um, you know, everybody's got their issues. Everybody, really. It doesn't matter if you're a traditional hire or a second chance hire. Um, but I will say this, the desire for success to me seems greater with that second chance person. And when you've developed that loyalty between employee and employer, they typically don't let you down.
Cultivate your professional community and make new connections at WIM's annual Summit Conference taking place on October 10th through the 12th, 2022. Join us virtually or in person in Atlanta, Georgia for a 3-day agenda full of plant tours at leading manufacturing facilities, engaging breakout sessions with expert presenters, and inspiring keynotes from industry leaders. Make the most of your summit experience by taking part in volunteer opportunities, networking receptions, and traveling dinners, and celebrate women in manufacturing at our annual Hall of Fame Gala on October 12th. Early bird registration for Summit ends on July 1st. Get the details and register today at www.womeninmanufacturing.org.
So as we wrap up our conversations on Hear Her Story, we typically end and close with some rapid fire questions to get to know even more about you, Leslie. And then as well, we'll end with some closing pieces of advice you have for our listeners and encourage and future women in manufacturing. So our first rapid fire question, what is your favorite quote and why?
So my favorite quote, we actually have it on the wall in our break room downstairs. We were able to get it printed, and it's by Steve Jobs. And it's great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people.
I love that.
And here I have to say that is a challenge because not typical behavior for those that are formerly incarcerated is to want to work with a team. Because in prison, you're not really a team. You're kind of watching out for yourself. And that has been something that we have really needed to work on to get people to trust. Trust is something that is earned, and we work really hard to try to make the team small so that it's not daunting to the person and to the employee, but we really try to push push that team spirit here. So that's why.
Right. I love that quote. I'm gonna have to remember that myself. And your favorite book?
So I'm kind of odd. I like to read, but it's not my favorite thing to do. But when I do read, I like real things. So I like to read biographies. I like to read career, like self-help type books. So I'm a huge Peter Frampton fan, and my favorite book is Do You Feel Like I Do? It's his biography. And it walks us through his whole life. And I was in love with him when I was a junior in high school and had the 6-foot poster on my wall. And I always tell my husband, he's still my love today. So, but he's a great musician and a great artist. And I think he's a wonderful person. But I also love The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. And that 1 Minute Manager series, also Who Moved My Cheese. The 1 Minute Manager is probably the best time management book. And it's a very quick read. It's a small book, but it was given to me early on in my enterprise career. And I live and die by that book. It teaches you about prioritizing and organization, not to touch a piece of paper twice. I mean, that is like the one thing I learned about that. So it was really good for me in being able to juggle a lot of balls, which I do a lot.
I'll have to read that. I've heard of it, but I've never yet read it. So The 1 Minute Manager.
The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. Mm-hmm.
By Ken Blanchard. I will check it out. And your favorite movie?
Well, I'm 100% Italian, so The Godfather is my favorite movie. When it came out, I was pretty young, but my father loved it. We watched it together. It was probably the most impactful movie for me because it reminded me of my family and my childhood. But I did just see Top Gun Maverick, and that was amazing.
Was it good? I haven't seen it yet.
So good. It was.
I have such fond memories of the first one, and I think I watched the first Top Gun at a sleepover. I think I was in 7th grade, and I just remember the volleyball scene and the men, and
do it.
It was pretty great.
They do it again, but they're playing football this time.
They're playing football this time. Are they shirting? No, I'm kidding. Are they shirting?
Yes. I know what you're saying.
That is fun. And last place you traveled?
Well, with COVID, haven't really done much lately. But the last big trip we did take, I have 4 kids. I have 2 daughters and 2 stepsons, and my oldest daughter lives in Atlanta, and she was getting married during COVID. We did just a backyard wedding, but she wouldn't allow us to fly because of COVID. And I wasn't working at the time, and my husband works for a company where he has unlimited PTO. And so we drove from California to Atlanta, Georgia. And that was fabulous. We had such a great time. Nobody's on the road because it was COVID. So, it was very interesting to travel through a pandemic through states. But it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. And if I had the time, I'd do it again. But other than that, out of the country, several years ago, we went to Italy, and that's a place I will go back a million times. I loved it.
I've never been to Italy, and you're making me really kind of hungry for this cross-country trip, either by train, as you said earlier, with your family, or by road trip. I haven't yet done it with my kids. I have a now soon to be or going into junior and sophomore year. And we keep talking about doing a cross-country trip, because I think some great memories would be had just in the fun of being in the car and stopping, making pit stops places, and obviously
that's
seeing
what we
some
did.
great things
That's
together.
exactly what we did. My husband's a big historical marker guy. And so we would let's go see what this is. On the way home. On the way out, I will say we were deadheading it because we had to get there for the wedding. But then on the way home, we went the different route, and we stopped in different places, and it was places that I'd never been, places he'd never been. It was fun.
Love it. So, goals for yourself. What professional and personal goals do you have for the rest of this year and beyond?
Okay, so personal goals. In 2022, I wanted to try to get back to a better self-care regimen. Last May, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And since then, I've had my surgery. I had 30 radiation treatments. My stress level was pretty high, and so I put my self-care on hold. I'm one of those people who kind of wants to make sure everybody else is okay before I'm okay. That's just kind of how I've always been. But now that I'm fully recovered, I'm getting out more. I'm trying to exercise more. I practice a lot of stress relieving. I do a lot of breathing and meditation, and I try to get out to the beach. I live about 2 miles away from the beach. I try to get out and walk. I love smelling the ocean. I love hearing the waves. I live in a wonderful part of the world, and I take advantage of that as much as I can. But the one thing that I do all the time is I keep a positive mindset. I mean, if I didn't have every day, my mantra was positivity, positivity. I'd get up every morning and I would tell myself that. And I do believe that that is what allowed me to have a much less stressful journey through that whole experience. And I thank God that I'm in a good place. As far as professionally, especially here, I plan to improve employee engagement and quality of work. I think that our employees, again, we've got to get them to be really engaged here and to really pay attention to our quality, and make them proud of where they are, and proud of the product that they are giving us every day. And so in order to do that, I'm trying to get people involved with our factory that can help them, maybe with self-help. We've been introducing, like we had a financial person come in and talk to our folks, and they came from a bank that would allow them to open up a credit union account and give them some financial planning. And so we're trying to do that and invest in our people. We're trying to do more events. We do birthdays and anniversaries every month. We do quarterly lunches. We had a taco truck come. One time we had pizzas. And so just trying to give them a pride of ownership in the company, and then now have that translate to the work that they do.
Love that. Employee engagement is so important. And I think knowing the number of open jobs and the talent is so very sought after, it's so important to make sure employees are feeling appreciated and connected to their company. So as we wrap up the episode, we always like to wrap up with our special guest giving final words of wisdom and advice to our listeners and audience. So what information or advice would you give to current women in industry or future women in industry?
So, we kind of talked about it earlier, but playing to your strengths, raise other women. If you have women in the factory or women in your business, raise them up with you. We all bring very important, unique skills to the table. It's important that we highlight those and we celebrate those. I also believe that women in manufacturing will no longer be the exception. I believe that soon there'll be more and more of us, and because I think that we prove that we are very resourceful, we're very patient, we're also very flexible when it comes to problem solving and improving productivity. When I talked about juggling the balls and spinning the plates, we're very good at that. We're inherently very good at that. I think that the industry, requires very strong talent, and women are just as talented as men. And I think we're good at the things that men aren't, which is organization, being compassionate, being productive. We're project managers, right? We've been project managers. I used to say when I would leave my job at Enterprise, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to my other job now. I'm not off yet. I got to keep going. And, and that was true. I was a single mom for quite a while. And, I had my parents. I was blessed to have my parents close to me, but it was me and my village. I had to figure it out. And my daughters and I we developed a very close relationship during that time. And you know what? They're very successful career women themselves today. And I know they tell me it's because of what they saw. And they saw how hard I worked, but they also saw how much fun we still had. and that was important. So I think as more women join the field, we will continue to inspire each other, because that's just what we do. We're great for business, we're great for manufacturing, we're just great anyway. I also think that women should strike while the iron is hot. I think this is a time for us to rise up. I always say, this is another one thing that I just say, but you got to be a solutions provider, not a problem identifier. Anybody can identify a problem, but it's the person that provides the solution that really is going to get the respect. So you show how you can add value to the bottom line while improving the culture and the morale of a company. And I think women are going to be great.
I love it. What a great place to close today, Leslie. It was such a great opportunity to connect with you. I loved learning your story and sharing your story. And I'm excited to have you connected to WIM and part of our community. And again, thanks for participating today and being part of Hear Her Story.
Thank you so much. It was awesome talking to you today. And I welcome anybody to connect with me. I would love that.
There is still time to nominate an incredible woman from your network to be honored as a 2022 inductee to the Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame. Submit your nomination by June 30th and recognize a woman in your world who is leaving her mark on the manufacturing industry by working to support, promote, and inspire other women every day. Since the WIM Hall of Fame's inception in 2020, 24 trailblazing women in manufacturing have been inducted into this prestigious group of manufacturing leaders. Nominate a leader from your company or professional network by June 30th. Additional information can be found at wimef.org.
Thank you for listening to Hear Her Story, a podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. Be sure to share, review, and subscribe to Hear Her Story on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.